welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Noelle. I am a Chicago-based content creator. I recently bought my first condo and I am bringing you guys through the process of completely furnishing it, but I did want to backtrack a little bit and kind of show you guys how I got here. So in my previous video, I talked about all of my must-haves and nice-to-haves list when touring condos, and so today I'm going to get into the condos I actually toured but did not go with. In total, I toured 7 condos, plus I had an 8th option, which would have been staying in the current apartment that I was living in because my landlord, who owned the condo that I was living in, was selling, and she was selling all of her furniture and everything. So every time I went to go tour a condo, I was comparing it to the one that I lived in. So I'm gonna go through all 8 options that I had, starting with the first 2, and I will do 2 per video. So today is the first condo and the second condo. For these first 2 condos, I really didn't have an idea of what I was looking for. They were the first ones I toured. It was very last minute. My mom was in town, and after my landlord told me she was selling her condo, we kind of were like, I could either choose to stay in the condo and buy that one, or I could go tour some more. And my mom was in town for 1 more day, so I kind of panicked, looked quick, found a few that I thought I would like, and it would just kind of get me started for touring, and that's what these first 2 were. So I'm gonna kind of go through each one, starting with the first one. The first one that I toured was a 2-bed, 2-bath. The apartment that I was currently living in was a 1-bed, 1-bath, around 800 square feet, on the top floor of a building. It was south facing, so I got sun all day. I absolutely loved it. Back to the one that I was touring. It was a 2-bed, 2-bath. These are the pros. It was the loft style that I was looking for. If I was going to move out of the one that I was currently in, I wanted to live in a loft building. I've always wanted to live in a loft, and I figured that this was my opportunity because a lot of lofts are actually condos and they're not apartments. They're not available for rent. You have to buy them unless you can find like an individual landlord. There's a few buildings that have lofts that are for rent, but it's not common. So I figured if I was going to buy, this would be my opportunity to live in a loft. So this first 2-bedroom, 2-bath did have that loft style that I was looking for. And when I say loft, it's normally an old warehouse that was converted into apartments. So they normally have exposed brick or timber wood ceilings or walls or something like that. That's kind of what makes them a loft. It had a recently updated kitchen and living room, but the bathrooms were not updated, so they were kind of out of date. But the kitchen and living room were very nice. They were updated. It was bigger than the current place I was living in. I can't remember the exact square foot that it was, but it was definitely bigger than the current place I was living in. Obviously, it had a whole second bedroom and bathroom. So that would have been ideal. I do think that if I went with a 2-bedroom, I probably would have been looking to get a roommate for at least like the first bit of owning that, just because I do have an entire second bedroom and it would have been at a higher price point than obviously the 1-bedrooms that I was looking at. The master bedroom had a beautiful walk-in closet that the entire side of it was windows, so it was very well lit. It was also a corner unit. It was east and south facing, so it was a corner unit that was east and south facing, so it did get some good natural light. The day that I toured it, I don't think it was very sunny, so I didn't get to see that, but it was south facing, which is when you get the most light. It did have a gym, and it also had a lot of brick. I talked about this in my previous video. If I was going to spend a lot of money paying HOA fees per month, I was looking for a unit or a building that had some amenities, so I did like that. The cons of this specific unit was I didn't love the location. It was the furthest away from where I wanted to be out of all of the ones that I toured, and it was kind of just more in an area that had a bunch of apartment complexes and not really like restaurants or stores. The grocery store would have been kind of harder to get to. It was right next to a train stop, so it was kind of, I don't know, personally I just don't think I'd want to live right next to the train for noise purposes and for just like there's a lot of people around. The location was not my favorite thing. It was right next to a freeway, so the view outside the windows was a freeway, and it was pretty loud because it was only like 4 floors up, I think, or 5 maybe, so you did get that freeway noise, which I also didn't love. This unit came with parking. Now when you're touring condos in Chicago, I don't know what it is for other cities, but a lot of the ones that I toured had parking that was attached to the unit, like you had to buy it with the unit, but the price was not included in the unit price. So I can't remember exactly what the price of this parking was, but it wasn't an indoor garage, it was an outdoor garage, which in my head, like, yes, you have like a designated parking spot. I don't even have a car, but if I'm going to purchase a parking spot, I would rather purchase a garage parking spot because Chicago is cold in the winter and it's snowing, and if I did have a car eventually, like if I do get a car or if someone's visiting and they need a place to park their car, obviously it's nice to have a spot at all, but I would prefer covered or indoor parking over an outdoor parking spot. They also didn't have like a doorman or any staff on site, which was kind of important to me because of the things that I touched in my last video about my must-haves. So overall, I did like the unit. It was the first one that I toured, and I think I kind of got excited just because it was the first one that I toured, and then as it went on, I realized that the deal breaker for that apartment specifically was the location. It was just farther away than I wanted to be. Because I don't have a car and I walk everywhere, location is kind of a big deal because even a couple blocks makes everything that you do a lot harder to access or longer to do. Okay, getting into condo number 2. This was we toured this one in the same day. My mom was still with us when we toured this one. It was a 1-bed, 1.5 bath. So the full bathroom was in the bedroom, and then there was a half bath outside of the bedroom, which is nice if you have guests over. They don't have to like go into your bedroom to use the bathroom. Like the place that I like ended up in, the bathroom is not attached to the bedroom, so I like that too. This is my pros list, by the way. It had really tall ceilings. I think they were 14 feet, which again just makes the space feel so much bigger. It was a corner unit, but the way that it was set up, the bedroom had windows, and then the kitchen living room didn't have any windows except for on the very end. So there was windows on both ends of the apartment, and in the bedroom it was a corner unit. But the kitchen and the living room were very dark because of that, because there was no really big windows in there, so it didn't really feel warm. Like it felt very cold and dark, which I didn't love. Again, we were touring these on days that the sun wasn't out, but with there just not being any windows in that space, I couldn't imagine it getting very bright in there. And the other weird thing about this one was that the door to get into the unit was in an outside hallway. So there was no like indoor hallways. They were all outside. Don't love that. Having my door directly accessible to outside, obviously you had to have a key to get into like the gate area, which would bring you up to the unit. But to me, that's just not, it doesn't feel safe, especially when I'm living by myself. I don't want to be in a situation where like my door is accessible just outside. There's no staff on site, and my door directly was at the end of the hallway and directly leads to a staircase that brings you out to the street. Like I just was not into that. So that was definitely a big con and a deal breaker for me for sure. I did like the unit itself, but that was just like weird to me. Especially in the winter in Chicago, I feel like you see setups like that more in warmer areas because it doesn't matter as much if like the hallway's outside. But I'm trying to imagine going out in the hallway, like if you have to bring the trash out, you're like bundling up to take the trash out. The whole point of living in an apartment complex is so that you don't have to do stuff like that. If I want to do stuff like that, I'd probably live in a house. Anyway, that was a deal breaker for me for sure. The location was closer to where I wanted to be than the first one, but still not an ideal location. There was no gym. Overall, it just kind of felt cold. I don't think everything in there was kind of dark colors. The kitchen was dark, the walls were gray. Obviously, some of those things are changeable, but it just felt really cold, not bright. It didn't feel warming. It didn't feel like home. So for a lot of reasons, that one was off of my list. Those were the first 2 that I toured. If you have any questions specifically about those ones, please let me know. The next episode of this will be out soon, and I will do the next 2. So there will be 4 videos of my condo tours total. I will be doing 2 per video, including the one that I was living in previously, and then I will end with a tour of my current place, which I am so excited to show you guys. Obviously, if you've seen any of my other videos, you've seen the inside of it, but I did just kind of want to talk through it and show you guys everything that I love about this unit. So please subscribe if this content interests you at all. I'm so excited for the second part of this condo tour series.